Gamble to keep feet trickling in, continued travel bans could have a crippling cost on our economy. South Africa's tourism industry could lose another 25 billion rand if these bans remain in place. This has been detailed in a letter the Tourism Business Council sent to the head of the EU's delegation to South Africa. The council's CEO, Tshivhengwa, has asked for an urgent meeting with the delegation to discuss the way forward. He argues you're just as likely to catch the Omicron variant of COVID-19 in Amsterdam, Berlin, Brussels or Paris as you are in Cape Town or Johannesburg. Tshifhiwa joins us now. Mr. Tshivhengwa, thank you so much for joining us. And it's a big chunk of money we stand to lose. How have you gotten to that figure? And with so much money on the line, how many jobs are at stake?
Well, thank you for having me. I think we had to sit down and look at the restrictions that are currently happening now from the EU region, from the member states, especially if you look at countries like Germany, France, the Netherlands. They're quite important source markets for us here in South Africa. And from the region itself, we receive about 685,000 tourists at a given year, let me say pre-COVID. So when you look at that and you take the numbers in terms of the spend and you extrapolate from that, we came out to the figure of 25 billion rand that could be lost if we don't open up soon in terms of the travel between the European Union and South Africa. And in fact, if the ban goes longer, that amount of money would even be higher. And the jobs that we've calculated that could be at risk is about 200,000 jobs. So it's a huge number. It's a lot of people that are sustained by these markets. And we are calling for the head of the delegation to really have a conversation with us from the scientific point of view so that we can understand their reasoning behind these bans, because we don't think that their reasoning is justified, and we don't think that these bans should be continuing as they are today.
What's the response been to your call for dialogue? And given the ear of the European Union, what would you say to them to convince them to scrap these bans?
Well, we have received response from the head of the delegation, and we also wrote to several countries that are important source markets. Today, we will be meeting with the German embassy to have a discussion and understand, as an individual country, what are the reasons behind the ban from their perspective. We hope to have the same with the Netherlands and France and many others within the EU. But the most important thing is that if we can meet with the head of the delegation, we get to talk to the entire bloc together and be able to sort of move the needle from that point of view. So it is, we have received some response, and some of these countries responded individually. They have told us that we must wait for a little bit, some of them. But we don't understand that on the simple basis that when the UK imposed the restriction, they both ran and imposed restrictions. But now they're not running to lift the restrictions once the UK have lifted the restrictions. And as I've said, you are most likely to catch the Omicron variant anywhere in the world. And therefore, there's no justification to isolate South Africa and the Southern Africa region in terms of tourism. And therefore, we're calling for EU to immediately lift this ban so that there could be flow of tourists between South Africa and the EU region. And therefore, we can start looking at the next couple of months, summer months that are still left, to see if we can recoup some of the bookings that we've lost.
Tshifhiwa, what's been the effect of some of the big global airlines cancelling their flights from South Africa?
Well, that is devastating, because there are a lot of people that have already booked, especially South Africans that were returning back home, that already booked, these airlines and have their air tickets. So now you have fewer airlines that are flying in. What's good is that the British Airways has upped their schedule in terms of coming to South Africa. But it's mostly for those that are returning home and those that are taking the chance in terms of the reopening of the UK market. But if you look at the Middle Eastern airlines, they're still closed, and there's still vague information coming from that area. So it has been devastating, and it works hand in hand in terms of opening the markets, creating demand, and therefore airlines will follow in terms of putting capacity into the route and increasing capacity when the demand increases. So we will wait until such time that there's a wider opening and there's more trust and more people are demanding us as a destination, and therefore we will then deal with the issue of airlift from various source markets.
Tshifhiwa, very quickly, we seem to be at the mercy of the UK, the EU, the US. How do we protect ourselves in the future, given that we're told pandemics are going to be with us for a long time, this particular one and others maybe?
Well, domestic travel is important, and the regional travel in terms of the SADC region is quite important, and that's happening. If you look at, the demand from the domestic leisure travelers, we've seen increase in that demand. A whole lot more people are traveling. We've seen the demand increasing from the car rental point of view, the hotel rooms point of view. But we need to be aware that, the price range is not what we used to charge. And therefore, it means that we may not be breaking even at all. So domestic travel is important, but we need to do more than that. We need to open up events. We need government to travel. We need corporates to travel to stabilize the domestic market base. But that's still a challenge because, everyone is still, sitting at home. The economy is not doing that well, and therefore many companies are still using technology to have meetings, and many people are not traveling. So we need to restart the machinery of travel from the corporate side of things, and we can mix it with the leisure side of things. Then we may have a viable domestic market. At the moment, domestic leisure may be up now because it's Christmas period. Come January, is going to be dead. And that's why we need, corporate and government travel, to sustain, these hotels and bed and breakfast and the entire value chain.
Tshifhiwa, thank you so much for your time, and we hope to be hearing good news from the EU and from you very soon. The Tourism Business Council's Tshivhengwa joining me on Newslink. After